So a couple of months ago, I watched a video and it was some young couple from America and they were basically bitching about the fact that they'd been lied to about van life. So this has kind of like played on my mind now for maybe a couple of months, because I'm thinking no way, shape or form has anybody that I've ever watched on YouTube lied to anybody about van life. The problem with YouTube is the perception of not wanting to be negative, because essentially it'll just put people off watching. You want to give out positive vibes and, you know, kind of like put energy into videos and stuff like that, whereas negativity doesn't really get great views. So maybe the problem isn't that van life, you know, kind of like people like us YouTubers lie to everybody who watches our videos. Maybe it's just that we include the most entertaining or watchable content that we make. So I had a chat with some friends and I said, give me an example of something that you consider to be a real van life issue, something that you wouldn't normally include in your videos for that kind of, you know, perceived idea that it isn't good content.
Hi, I'm Darren from the Open Motorhome. I'm coming up to my 3rd anniversary of van life. So when Gadget John sent me a message saying he wants to do a video highlighting the truth about van life, the first thing that popped into my mind, which I never expected before I got into it, and I don't think it's spoke about that much, is how attached I've become to my motorhome and how much thought goes in to parking and how much worry and anxiety can come from leaving the motorhome on its own. I mean, let's take today for instance. I need to go do some food shopping, which means leaving my home unattended while I go over here. Might only be for 10 minutes, but it's still unattended. Now my shopping's done, I need to quickly pop into town and go to the opticians, which, as we know, towns and cities are a no-no for vans and motorhomes because of parking and restrictions. So it means I have to park my home further away. Now I'm all done with the opticians in town, I've said I was going to come around and see a friend for catch up on a coffee, but parking around his area is a nightmare. So I've had to park about two and a half streets away from his, again leaving my home alone. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to hate upon van life or put anyone off. I love van life, I'm a big supporter of van life, and I've been doing it for almost 3 years now. I don't want people to think that I'm shaking like a leaf with fear and anxiety every time I leave the motorhome. It's just a lot of umming, ahhing and thought goes into parking your motorhome or your van when you are going to leave it on its own. And I do catch myself when I'm out at a restaurant or at a friend's thinking about, is it alright, you know, is it okay? And that's because really, which sounds weird, but it's because my whole worldly possessions and my home are all wrapped up in a nice neat little bow, and in brutal honesty, it could just be lifted straight onto a truck and gone, you know, and that can't happen with bricks and mortar. Other things can happen, not belittling that, but that is the brutal truth of it. You will get a little bit of attachment and fear and anxiety. Well, at least I do anyway. All that being said, van life still rocks.
Hey guys, so John's asked me to do a reality of van life video, and I have chosen to talk about the dog. So having a dog in the van has its benefits, but it also has its drawbacks, and the drawbacks are pretty goddamn big. Biggest one, and I'll start with it because it's this time of year, winter. Having a dog in a van in winter is a nightmare. Maybe not so much if you have a short-haired dog, small dog or something like that, but to have a spaniel-like dog with long hair in the winter when, I mean, we all know what the weather's like here at the minute, it's horrible. I go for 2 walks a day with Lance, who's fast asleep at the moment, and every single time he's coming back drenched and muddy, and no matter where we go, everywhere's boggy and horrible. It's just, I've had a good clean of the van today, and guarantee by 3 days time it will be filthy again. You live in one room which your dog has access to. It's easy to say bring loads of towels or get a dog coat, but the fact of the matter is storage, because you live in a van. Where do you put it? And once they've all been used, which is quite quick, where do you dry them? You know, it's cold. It's hard to dry stuff. Other thing, especially if you're going travelling, I found, because Lance was a puppy when we went away, it was quite tough leaving him in the van. I mean, it's better now. He's older. He's got a bit more used to the van. I don't mind leaving him as much, but especially if you go abroad in the summer, there's certain things you just won't be able to do, especially if you travel solo, like me. Certain attractions you want to go and see aren't dog friendly, so if you've got the dog with you, you're not going to be able to do it. Other times, if you go in the blazing summer, there's times when it's just not safe to leave the dog in the van. So I missed out on a few things abroad, especially around Italy. That's when it was summertime, and it was just too hot to leave the dog in the van. It was too hot to leave the dog out in the sun. I had to keep like bringing him in, bathing him in a river or a lake nearby to like cool him down. I even had to buy a pair of clippers in Italy and give him a bit of a shave to shed some of his hair off. Now, despite both of those points, I wouldn't change having Lance. It's a totally different experience. Yes, you miss out on certain things, but you gain a whole lot more things in return, if that makes sense. For example, I'm quite a shy person in real life. If you meet me, I'm not the biggest talker, you know, I'm more kind of happy to sit in the crowd and listen. But Lance forced me to interact with people abroad. He'd run up to people and you'd have to go over and apologise, and then you get chatting, and before you know it, you're hanging out or something like that. Or he's ran into someone's van and you're like, oh my God, and you know, you get chatting to them. And I actually ended up, you know, driving around with people for a little bit that I'd met that way. Lance had kind of introduced us by just being a knob. No matter where we parked, in the morning and in the evening, we'd be going off exploring. It would force me to get out and see stuff, whereas some days, you know, you're just not asked, you don't want to. But I had to, and because of that, I found some amazing things. If I was in cities, I'd, you know, see the sights. Out in the sticks, even better. I found so many like cool ruins and mountain and hikes, and you know, just things that you would literally not find because you've stayed near to the van or you've just got in the van and drove off. So yeah, on the whole, having dogs is a challenge. It really is, but I wouldn't change it. It's it makes life have a little bit of variety, even if that variety is a pain in the arse. This is actually the quietest it's been in the daytime for I don't know how long. Obviously the morning walk has worked. Anyway, that's me. Thank you for listening to me babble.
Hello. John's asked me to do a little video about the realities of van life, and the one thing that I found different living in the van than weekending and stuff like that is from a monthly perspective for PMS. I suffer from PMS, and I also have a little bit of pre-menopause in there, just for good measure, just to make things really interesting for John. I think the thing that bothers me is the inability just to take myself off into another room. You know, if I get feeling irritated for no reason or anything like that, it's just that little bit of space that I find getting myself. So I've been having walks, which is really good for Coop. So that is the way around it, and the fact that we're in wonderful places means that I can get away with going for a walk. But along with that side of thing on the monthlies, I also miss a little bit of space. And maybe women will get what I mean when they think that certain times in the month you need a bit of elbow room to do things. And yeah, we're a bit short on elbow room in here. So apart from it being a little bit frustrating that it's not as easy as it was, that seems to be the thing that sticks in my mind as the biggest change from living in a van to having a house.
And would you think that would put people off? Because that's quite a negative view, isn't it? So
I don't think it should. I don't think it should put people off. It's not putting me off at all. It is because it's for me. It's 5 days a month, so there's still 26 days on average left over for me to be enjoying and not worrying about stuff like that. And I'm fairly sure that I'll get used to it. We still only are 3 pre-menstrual points in at the minute, so yeah, it wouldn't stop me. Doesn't stop me enjoying it at all. It's just one of the things I didn't think about that would be a problem before we moved into the van.
Wanted to talk about mental health and living in a van. It could be that you have pre-existing mental health problems, maybe even historical. Maybe you're medicated, maybe you've not been medicated for a number of years. You might find that living in a van is not the passport to a life of wonder and adventure, because once the honeymoon period is over, it's just where you live, with all the freedom and flexibility and fluidity that van life brings. It may also become a trigger for periods of low mood in itself, in addition to your normal triggers, whatever they might be: significant dates, time of year, change of seasons, those kinds of things, memories. So learn to recognize your new triggers, because if you're suffering from low mood, you might become withdrawn, if that's kind of how it is for you. You might have low mood, lack of motivation, and consider how that is going to affect you when you're living in a van. And the very basics of living are that bit harder. Keeping yourself clean, keeping your living space clean, keeping yourself fed, keeping warm, keeping healthy. These are all things that you need to consider. What is your support network? Do you even have one? Who are you going to call to talk it out when you're feeling like shit? Where's your GP? Do you have a GP? Are you registered with a GP that is 200 miles away, or one that is local? Some of my bleakest moments have been in the back of this van. I've had some truly miserable times in the back of this van, as well as wonderful times alongside my friends. Get yourself out and about. Being holed up in the back of a van is no fun. Being holed up, no more than being holed up in a house, really. If you are cutting yourself off from the outside world, it might even be worse in a van. You can't outrun your demons. So moving into a van is not going to be something that's going to cure that. So again, consider that, because on those dark, cold, wet nights, you might have your demons keeping you company. So keep yourself safe. Enjoy your travels. Enjoy this. I'm not gonna poo-poo van life. It has been an amazing experience for me. It's opened so many doors. It's opened my eyes to a whole new way of living, and I'm sure you will have a fantastic time. But do keep yourself safe, know your triggers, and have a plan for what you're going to do when things aren't going great.
Hi, we're John and Tash from Life Beyond Bricks.
Hello.
One of the van realities I wanted to go through is weather.
Yes, so which is quite apt, as obviously we've had really bad storms over the last sort of few weeks, and for some reason tonight
is really windy.
The weather's just started kicking up again as we were driving back, because we're actually at the NEC this week, hence why we're both all togged up and also both looking a little bit tired, so bear with us. So so the weather sort of even the rain, heavy rain can, I mean, I'm quite a light sleeper, so heavy rain will wake me up. If you have to unfortunately park underneath trees, it's even louder. This is a pretty well built coach built. It's got like a GRP overskin on the roof. It's still really, really loud. So that's one thing I think we did realise, because obviously we've been motorhoming for years, but full timing, you don't get any like respite from it. If it's like the storms just go on, if the storm rolls into one day, then another day, then another day, sometimes you get like collectively 3 or 4 hours sleep per night. I mean, through the height of the first storm, like Kira or car or whatever you want to call it. I think we, over that whole, just the weekend, like the 3 or 4 days, I think collectively we probably only had, you know, maybe sort of 6-7 hours sleep, didn't we? Because the wind gusts were just, they were outrageous. And obviously what we try to do is, or like John sort of said, we try to park head on into the wind, because obviously realistically
the van is designed
designed for that,
to go through the air like that,
like when you're driving. So and it does actually help, doesn't it?
It does help, yeah.
But even so, I mean, I've never known anything like it. You know, like we say, we've been motorhoming for years, but I think when you're in it full time and you don't have that respite from it, it really does sort of take its toll. So like you've already touched on, things like you think you're going to shelter by parking under trees. Well, we found the rain is louder, and we also found the wind, the noise of the wind is
going through the
worse.
trees. And yeah, don't park under trees anyway, because in high winds they can actually fall onto the van.
You don't think about that though, do
No.
you? You know, you think you're sheltering from something, but actually, like I say, the noise of it, and like you say, if it's not a sturdy, you know, if it's not a sturdy tree, then obviously that can be quite bad. And it's also things like when you park up somewhere, again, this is something we've learned, is thinking about what the weather's going to be doing the next day. So for example, if you park up somewhere that might be either slightly muddy or maybe isn't level, if you have a load of rainfall overnight, you're going to wake up in the morning and possibly be jumping out into huge puddles, or you're going to end up, you were on something that seemed quite level and now you're a little bit sunk in the mud. So you're going to have trouble moving. So I think it's not just for when the weather's bad. I think if there is a bad spell of weather and it's patchy, you have
Just
to kind of
actually
plan.
Yeah, you have to plan
ahead.
You have to actually plan it for weather, which you don't obviously have to do in a house.
Yeah,
Well,
so
not so much.
yeah, not so much in a house, unless you live in an area
It
that
still can go wrong in a house. You know, your tiles can fall off, or your
you can have flooding.
flooding, or your chimney can fall down and go through your roof. So yeah.
So it can happen, but yeah, I think from a perspective of reality, you do definitely have to plan, because I think as well, we did actually find winter touring quite hard, didn't we, this time round, because it's things like our summer strategy, i.e. we rock up to an area and we find a CL and then we ring up and say, can we stay? Obviously that worked for us in the summer, but in the winter it hasn't worked at all, because places are waterlogged or they're closed. So, you know, you kind of had to completely rethink, what we were doing. So, yeah, the weather's definitely been...
Well, there's one, I think it's possibly one that could be easily overlooked, but especially in this country, well, I suppose in any country as well, it can... I know Europe's been hit quite bad with storms recently as well, so yeah. Yeah,
So
that is it.
Yeah.
So, thank you for watching.
So what's my little kind of like real van life information that maybe doesn't come across all the time? And that is services. I mean, water, LPG, diesel and power, 12-volt battery power. And yeah, you can get diesel everywhere. LPG, not so great, but you can still get hold of it, you know, fairly simply. Water is another one that's up there, like above the problem of getting hold of LPG. Getting hold of water could be, you know, something that's easy enough to drop into a campsite and they're very friendly about it. It could be the problem that you've travelled maybe for, you know, half an hour, 45 minutes down the road to go to a supermarket just to buy some cheap bottled water or something like that. And I've even heard of people calling into cemeteries to get bottled water or to get water for the tank. So battery wise, I've recently had an issue with obviously the lithium battery saga. Won't go into that, but it's on a video if you want to watch it. And that's made me think a lot more about the power that we use in the van, the power that's available. The battery to battery charges the leisure batteries from the engine as you drive. But if you don't drive for more than half an hour, it doesn't really do a lot. It might put a little bit of power in there, but not a great deal. Same with solar. If you're in sunny conditions, you know, somewhere near the sun and it gets really hot, that's going to be fine. But if you're in the UK and you're only driving a little bit of time every day, you've got some battery issues you're going to come across pretty quick. And that was us before we left for Europe, just before Christmas. We were probably about 75 to 85% every day on our battery. So we're thinking, you know, using battery fairy lights, making sure that Mandy's coffee machine was never used, making sure that if I did a video, it was during the daytime, so I could use my laptop on the 12-volt power just to give it some charge to make a video. And these are the things that maybe you don't think about so much when you think about van life, but it's a reality. Whether it's, you know, CJ playing on his game station, whether it's me editing videos, or whether it's, you know, certain people out there that love their coffee maker machines and stuff like that, power is everything. Just like water is everything, just like gas is everything. Our gas is for the fridge and for cooking, as well as for the heating. So whilst it doesn't spoil van life whatsoever, and whilst we've been doing it for the last 18 months, now and again at weekends, we always left with full tanks and came back and filled up on the way back or whatever, or I'd prepared to fill up before we went on the trip. In real van life, you just got to really think about the power and services you're using in your van and prepare yourself. Make sure you never, you know, pass the opportunity to get fresh water, LPG, and even, you know, charge your batteries. Go for a run now and again or something in the van, charge your batteries up fully. Well, that's not to dissuade anybody from van life. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Ignore the big trip that we're on right now. Even when I was back in the UK, I was still very happy, still very chilled. I really do think van life is great, you know, if you are suited to that kind of, you know, free, adventurous spirit kind of way of life. Anyway, I want to say thanks to Tash and John, thanks to CJ, thanks to Daz, thanks to Mevi, obviously from Mandy and I as well. Thanks for watching the video. If you've got any comments on this, please do leave them in the comment section down below, and we'll catch you on the next video quite soon. Take care now. Bye.